Welcome to Define Play, where I ask fascinating people what play means to them. My name is Michael Mirza, and my guest today is Meghan DeJong, who's an executive pastor at High Rock Church, a multi-site Christian community in the Boston area that emphasizes curiosity, compassion, and courage. I had the privilege of working with Meghan for a few years and found her pastoral leadership to be visionary, innovative, courageous, and bold. She's also an athlete, superfan, activist, and mother with a great sense of humor. So get ready for some warming wisdom, and let's get started. Before we start, what are we drinking tonight?
This is Beyoncé's Sir Davis whiskey. I am a huge Beyoncé stan, and I had to get this because they don't sell it in Boston. So
Really?
They don't sell it in Massachusetts. So when I left a bottle at my parents' house when I came to Chicago, and now we get to finish it together.
Okay.
This is like her homage to her grandfather.
Wow.
So
He's Davis?
yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
Sir Davis. Okay, let's see how it is. It's got some like oranginess
Yes,
to it.
it's very fruity.
Little
yes.
toffee. It's a great whiskey.
Which this is how I take my coffee as well. I love
With whiskey?
At Christmas time, sure. Yeah.
And so you just said you're a huge Beyonce stan.
Yes.
What does
Yes.
Beyonce mean to you?
Okay, so I've realized that there are two kinds of Beyonce fans that I have noticed.
Okay.
Folks who have like been ride or die from the beginning, and folks who hopped on at Self-Titled, which was her album that dropped, in like the late like 2000s. That I am more of the latter, right?
Okay.
Like absolutely
Own it. That's
got
great.
down with Destiny's Child in 7th grade, but there was something that happened when Beyonce dropped Self-Titled that I think was super empowering for me. I was a new mom at the time when this happened, and the way that she was exploring what it meant to like be a wife and to be a mom herself in her music. I was like the first mom in all of my friend group, and we were young parents. And I think all of the things that I had known about myself just like weren't true in the same way that they used to be. And so to have someone artistically expressing that and sort of owning their own body, owning relationships in different ways, that was really empowering for me. And I feel like every phase since then, she's released art that has helped me feel more empowered. And like to see my Black friends around me like relate to that in new ways too. Like I get to learn from them, which I think is super cool. So I am definitely like second half Beyonce and like all in and no shame. It is what it is.
I love that. I mean, it shouldn't really matter when you became a fan. Like,
Sure.
You can't control when you started, when it clicked with you.
Yeah.
So, but you went all in when it clicked with you. And that's
It's
awesome.
true. Yeah.
And how cool to see her evolution and the way she's trying different things. I mean, that's a form of playfulness in itself, right?
100%.
Just to say there's nothing off limits of what she can't do.
And as like a person, she's creative in a different way than I am. And so I think for me, to have someone who can inspire that, like provides a new freedom for like what I can explore too.
Love it.
Which is awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So you live in Boston.
Yes.
But you're a native Chicagoan.
Yes.
A very proud one.
Yes.
And we're in Chicago, which is so fun.
Yes.
And I know one of the Chicago things you maintain while you're in Boston is your love for the Chicago Cubs.
Yes, of course.
And you grew up in a Cubs family, right?
Yes.
So that chose you in a way, but you choose the Cubs back.
Oh yeah.
Why?
Gosh. I think there is like something character forming about being ride or die. And because the Cubs, I mean, one of my earliest memories is watching the Cubs with my great grandma. She used to live across the hallway from me growing up. So I'm like 3, 4, 5, going over there for day games, watching with her, falling asleep on her couch with her and my little brother. And like that was so cool to be able to pass that on to my kids. My husband is a White Sox fan, which was a major point of contention.
It's amazing you've made that work.
I know. But really, like that idea that you can like come around a team like that and cheer for them and have fun. We love baseball. It is like honestly one of my proudest things as a parent that my kids both love to sit through baseball games.
Yes.
Because people say that baseball is boring. They can say that they're wrong.
Yeah.
Like, but I'm just like, my children love it and we love the Cubs. And there's a bit of me that like living in the Boston area, I love antagonizing Boston fans. So when the Cubs came to Fenway this last year, we went to all the games and I was just heckling. I mean, the Cubs got like demolished one of the games. It was like 17-1 or something. But I just like, I love the chirping. Yeah. I love just, and there's like sort of like a camaraderie between Boston fans and Chicago sports fans of just like dynasty teams and deep, deep love. And also long stretches of just being losers. And to say like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you've won. What matters is that you're like in community with all of these other people, just like supporting your team. And that's so fun.
I love that.
Yeah.
Baseball is unique in its pace, right?
Yes.
It's slower.
Yeah.
That's actually, I think, some of the appeal of it in some ways. It's a more relaxed, baseball is the perfect radio sport.
Yes.
I mean, for what extent radio is still alive. Like,
I mean,
listening
I listen to it.
It's the perfect sport to listen to on the radio.
Yeah.
Like, a faster game is tougher to follow.
Oh, yeah.
But you're an athlete in many ways, and baseball, you played softball at the collegiate level. In what way did being an athlete be part of your identity at that point? And is it still part of your identity now?
I mean, I think my family always was very movement oriented, right? And so I always enjoyed that like sports could be that entree into movement, into teamwork. I never liked solo sports as much as I liked team sports, right? So growing up, we always were running. Like we're that family that would run for all the holidays, right?
The family 5K. That's great.
1,000. Even if there wasn't one planned, we would like self-organize.
I love it.
And I really liked like connecting with other people that way through like moving your body and encouraging each other and playing. And I was so grateful to like go to a Chicago public school that had so many different sports that we could play at an early level. And it was kind of like everybody got to play, which meant that I don't know, like seeing all of my friends and participating with them in that way was really cool. I think I like definitely stayed with softball because it was that family sport that we always were into, baseball and softball. And I loved it. Like I liked how my body felt when I could connect with it. Like there was like a fluidity, like a dancing. I can like get with if there's music, and I'm much more like free in myself now than I used to be when I was a kid. But like I was not self-conscious when I was on the softball field because I like knew what I was doing instinctively. And that I'm like a very kinetic person. And so there were ways that I could shut my brain off and connect and, you know, like talking about play or talking about, I think play for me is so synonymous with like emotion, that I could like connect in an emotional level that I wasn't having my brain get in the way when I would be on the softball field. And so I think when I stopped playing, I had like a bunch of knee issues pop off during college, that ultimately like it made it less fun. I was too in my head. And that's where I was just like, oh, this isn't what I want to do. So I, you know, like switched to running more because I could get out of my head and just like connect through my body. And now like CrossFit, I like feel like the most stereotypical like post-collegiate athlete that I'm just like, CrossFit bro. But like it's that same thing of for an hour a day, I get out of my head and I get to move my body. And now I'm like doing it with other people again because that's like the appeal of that. So that's cool.
Love that.
Yeah.
And you know, CrossFit is so much more than just a way to exercise for you. This is a community.
It is.
Like you said it's about the people.
Yeah.
What's your role in the CrossFit community in your local gym?
I feel like in some ways I take on the unofficial HR director role. Like this is, I think one of the things that my profession provides me, like just even who I am, is that I like paying attention to how people are wired, what they can bring to the table, noticing people, encouraging them, but also paying attention to like the emotional intelligence and baseline in the room. So a lot of like conflict management or like how are things happening when you stick lots of different people together, like something's bound to pop off. And I have the skill set to like be able to work with that. So
Wow.
I feel like I don't care about movement standards. Like I would be a terrible CrossFit coach because you're supposed to like.
You mean like form?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
My husband's a CrossFit coach. Like he's good at noticing people's form.
Yeah.
I don't care. If you're here, you're moving your body, you're staying safe. Like I'm for that, whatever that looks like for you. Mostly I want to make sure you have a place where you feel safe and that you are like growing as a human. So I tend to be like that role, and they don't pay me for it, but it's okay. I just like will step into whatever vacuum I find and insert myself there.
Wow. I think that's fascinating that both in your experience on the softball team in college and now in your experience with your local CrossFit gym, you brought up emotion both times.
Yeah.
And emotion is, I think of when I think of emotion related to sports and athleticism, it's often tied to performance.
Sure.
Winning or losing.
Sure.
For you, was it connected to performance, or is it something more about something else? I don't want to lead you.
It's probably like both in some ways. I think my parents really instilled a healthy balance of like winning looks like trying your hardest, and did you give it everything that you had. They were really good about not slotting us into like travel sports from an early age, because that really emphasizes like dialing in on one sport and winning, like beating the other team becomes the end goal. And that was never what my parents instilled, right? And so I think what I always cared about in softball, and when it stopped becoming fun, was when I felt like I couldn't do my best anymore because I was in my own head too much. My body, like I was so nervous after all my knee surgeries about like doing the wrong thing that I couldn't try my best anymore.
Right.
And with CrossFit, like I'm not competing against anybody else. I'm there to like work as hard as I can for the day. And so sometimes if I've had like 4 hours of sleep, my best is not going to be the same as if I had 9 hours of sleep.
Yep.
And that's okay. Like it can be relative, and I can be proud of what I've put in that day. But I think that is like such a different perspective of like winning and losing, that I think leads to like, just we've seen like how that feeds into people's sense of self-worth, how it feeds into like how people feel about other people. Like that creates such a binary that I just like refuse to believe has to be the only way. So I think I know that part of how I understand an emotional connection to like moving my body, sports, whatever that is like some of my personal temperament too. Like I definitely like feel things before I can recognize in my head what's going on. So I think moving my body, sports, whatever that is, like allows me to get in touch with the like thing that's going on behind the feeling.
I love that. Yeah, the excuse to move your body creates opportunities to feel things you would not have felt otherwise.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So you're using some of your natural leadership gifting in the unofficial HR director role, but you are also a leader by profession in faith communities, and there's lots of ways to organize people and lead people. There's no one right way to do this. Even in the faith community world, in churches, there's lots of approaches. How do you balance tradition and innovation when you find yourself in a community and in a leadership position?
I have to surround myself with people who are going to offer me like alternative perspectives, I think. I think one of the things about me is that rules will be like arbitrary if I think that they don't apply.
You say rules or rules?
Rules,
Okay.
yeah. Which can be helpful when we're talking about innovation, when we're thinking about like, are there limits, right? Like I can dream really big because I'm just like, oh, that rule doesn't matter here. Like who made that rule up? Not me. It can be like unhelpful because I can often like neglect like why those rules mattered in the first place, right? And the community that I serve in is like pretty diverse in terms of like theological background, like age, ethnicity, and race. And so sometimes like rules were instituted out of a framework that I have no concept of, right? And so just because I don't feel like they apply to me doesn't mean that they weren't helpful for someone else. So I think like surrounding myself with other people and recognizing I don't have all of the answers, I have something to contribute there, But I have to like really lean into group wisdom there.
Yeah.
I really try to not like ever pull rank or make executive decisions, because I just don't think, for me, that is like a thing that I'm like, I don't think that's good leadership. Because not everyone has had the same life experience. And so if we're going to try to like move things, we have to do it together.
Yeah.
Taking all of our perspectives into account.
I love that. I love the humility there. And I mean, it's so cool that you are an executive pastor on your team. You're not the executive pastor. Nothing against setups where there's one executive pastor. But it's cool that you have multiple people with a shared leadership model who can bring each of their unique gifts into their context.
And it was like, it was not easy, right? Because that isn't the standard MO. Like, and so it was a lot of working with my colleagues to say, can we trust each other? Can we talk about hard things? Can we talk about where we disagree and not assume the worst of each other in that conversation? It's not always perfect, but it's good.
So when we're talking about innovation and tradition, now in theology and pondering the universe, pondering God and spirituality, how do you have imagination and play in the way you think about these universal things alongside awareness of really hard things?
Sure.
Suffering and reading the news, and where do those things fit together?
I think I did not grow up like in a place where I was very aware of existential or very real suffering, right? Like I had a very nice life growing up in a lot of ways. And so I have learned a lot from folks who have been able to find like divine purpose, divine connection, and like exist in suffering, right? So I think that was like a hard thing at first when I encountered these questions of suffering, these questions of how could there like be a good God if X, Y, and Z is happening. And to say like, there are people who have gone before me who have lived through this and still like found God to be good. How did they do that? Learning from those folks. I think like the Black church is just like an incredible expression of like resistance and joy and playfulness in the midst of like having been systemically told like you don't matter, and to say like, well, that's not what God tells me, and that's like what actually matters here. And so we're going to organize and worship out of that reality, not the reality you're superimposing on me. But I do think there has to be like all of that held together. Like you can't sit too long in suffering, because like what, like that's not all of life. Like I don't know. You can't just sit in joy, because that's like sticking your head in the sand and ignoring what's going on, right? But I think part of like growing up, growing older, growing in wisdom is like saying it's holding all of these things together. And like, is God big enough to hold all of that? And I think I've come to a place where I'm just like, yeah, if I think that God is real, like God's holding all of that all together, and I don't have to worry about it. Like I just get to be and to respond as like life presents itself.
I love that. There's a time and a place to play. There's a time and a place to be very serious and solemn.
Yes.
And all of it is part of this experience.
Yes.
And of living in a creative, vibrant world.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
And we can't control it, right? Like I think that's the piece to your point of like innovation. Innovation is like responding to what is in front of you instead of trying to over control and like force something into a box.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so pivoting to another realm of highs and lows and beautiful things existing alongside hard things.
Yeah.
Let's talk about parenting.
Okay.
We're both parents.
Yep.
How has the way that you play with your family changed over the years?
I was not good at play when my first kid was born. Probably wasn't good at play when my second kid was born. So our older son, Brady, has Down syndrome, and it was really easy to delight in him. It was really easy to delight in Luke, our younger son. but so much of like Brady's early years were spent in physical therapy, occupational therapy, all of his movement and like reading, and all of it was so intentional to try to help really like stimulate as much growth as we could in those early years. Because the first like 3 years of a kid's life in that, and with any kid, but particularly with Brady, were like so important. That's what everyone told us.
Yeah.
So it felt kind of like work. It wasn't like play. And so it was interesting then. Luke was born when Brady was 3.5. And all of the like things that we had to work on with Brady came naturally to Luke. And so I felt like I was learning those first 6 months of just like, oh, I kind of just like get to be with this kid, be present with him. I don't have to like work being with him.
Yeah.
But I was in grad school at the time, and so I felt like I was always working. When we moved to Boston, Luke was 18 months old. Brady was in school, and I would take Mondays off from work, and I didn't want to pay for childcare. So it was just like me and Luke on those days. And like, at first it was exhausting because I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this tornado all day? Like, he was so loud and just like a Michelin Man baby. And
Just bouncy.
yes, all the time, and screaming, like yelling. But I was just like, hey, this is actually an opportunity for me to connect with him in like out of who he is, instead of trying to make him slot into like a convenient part of my life. And so I started to look at the times that I had with him on those Mondays as like, what does it look like to learn about who he is? What does it look like to connect with him on the level that he's at, instead of making this something that like is for me? What if this was for him? And I think trying to take that into like every phase of life with them now. My husband's so much better at like naturally going there, but I feel like we've put rhythms in place that are just like, hey, this is what it means to delight in the things that our kids are into. Like, we play a lot of Nintendo Switch games together because they love that. Like, we did Pokemon Go because Luke was like so into it for a long time. Like, last minute, we're going to go to Pokemon Go Fest in New York with thousands of other people who play this silly game, right? But it was like, my kids love this, right? So I don't have to take everything so seriously. Like, I get to play with them with stuff that they like and just like let it be a thing. And that has been actually very good for like my like, inner child. That sounds like so whatever, but it is that part of me that like, I think in adulthood, you feel like you have to be serious and everything has to be task oriented. And like, no, some of this can just be for fun, and that is like just as good too.
Yeah. It's just for fun, and by showing them, but take Pokemon Go Fest for an example. It's just for fun,
right?
But also you're showing them, look, there's all these other people who have this shared interest. How cool that like this just for fun thing helps them connect to something bigger.
Yeah, totally.
I played a lot of video games as a kid. Still play a lot of video games now. That's how Roberto and I hang out. That's how I hang out with your husband. And it's so much more than just a game.
But when we were young, right? Like, video games, at least how I remember it, it was like looked down on almost as like a waste of time. Maybe that was just in our house or whatever.
There was some of that rhetoric around. I'm grateful that like my parents had a good balance of.
Oh, good for you.
I remember spending entire afternoons playing games. But I also remember spending a ton of time outside.
Right.
And they went hand in hand for me. They were both interesting and engaging. And there were probably times my parents had to steer me more in the outside direction. Also, one of the ways that a consequence I had if I was acting out was my mom would take only the power cord to the Nintendo 64. Only the power cord. Everything else was still there. But she was just
taunting
like,
you.
What are you going to do?
Nothing.
So that stung, but I probably deserved it. But with your kids, it's fun that you can have that in your living room.
Yes.
And then also this, Pokemon Go in particular, gets people outside, gets people connecting to people. And then they find a new interest and they move on from it. And so that's great. So as they're getting older, Are there ways of play or ways of connection in general that you look forward to having with them that they're not there yet, but things you look ahead and see like, oh, we can do that together?
So I get like little hints of it. This is like sort of, I don't know. It came about in like a little bit of a backwards way, but Luke's very into soccer. And again, like I grew up in a baseball family, hated soccer, hated. That's how I like blew out my knee the first time. So just like a little
and you
salty.
never forgave soccer after that?
Never. It was not I am sports fault. No, it was soccer.
Yeah.
And he's very into it, and they needed a coach this year. And my husband could not coach because he was like occupied doing other things on the nights. So I had to be the coach. And I like went very begrudgingly into it. But guess who's coaching again next semester? It's me, right? Like
you probably did a great job.
Well, I made it very clear. I am an assistant coach. I can be your like rah-rah. I can be your HR director, right? Yes. If you want me to learn technical things about soccer, I don't care enough to do that. Yeah. But it was like interesting to just be like, oh, this is what it's like to like do sports with my kids now, right? So like sometimes we do take them to the CrossFit gym to like, I've like spotted Luke doing his back squats now and like doing burpees with Brady, like those sorts of things where I'm like, okay, maybe we're not a running family, but maybe we can be like this kind of family that plays together.
You're a tire flipping family.
Yeah. We played Monopoly for the first time last weekend. Yep.
How'd that go?
It was super fun. Brad was very reticent. He like has terrible memories of it. And I have really great memories of like days long tournaments of Monopoly with my siblings. And so I feel like we struck a good balance, like played over 2 days. No one cried. I was the first one out. So like set the tone for what it means to just like lose and be done with it.
Yep. I have started many Monopoly games. I don't think I've ever finished one.
What?
I mean, it's like a 3-hour game, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you just have to do it in chunks.
Okay.
Yeah, with like snacks. Yeah, that's fine. Just like set the board
I could probably have more capacity for it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So fun. And way to model to them like, hey, this is how we be a good sport.
Yeah. It's just about playing the game.
It's just a game.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
So we've talked about a couple different communities that you've been a part of and are still a part of, from your family of origin, your softball team, your CrossFit gym, your family, your coworkers, your congregation.
The unique expressions, our church, one of the I think markers of our church community is that it's like very intellectual. So like in the greater Boston area, you have a lot of people like who've got advanced degrees who are thinking about the world in like complex ways. So they'll end up at our church for some of that because we'll talk about some things in like those ways, and that's different for them. So I actually have found like intellectual curiosity to be a form of play.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you can just like bat around ideas with people and dream together or ask hard questions. I was always a little bit of like a needler in my family growing up because I would always be asking these questions, and now I feel like I work with a bunch of people that this is just like normal. And so when I get around other folks that like aren't doing that, they're just like, what's happening? And I'm like, oh, I forgot. Normal people don't just like sit around and talk about existential questions all the time. Oh, just me? Okay. Yeah. But I actually have found even like in our CrossFit gym, like there is a higher concentration of people in the greater Boston area who are just like doing that intellectual work. So that has been an interesting form of play. But I think the reason that it would be like considered play instead of work is when you like don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe that's like the theme for all of it. Just like don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. There has to be room. There has to be room to have ideas that you're just playing with and exploring.
Yeah.
And okay with being wrong about.
Yeah.
Or else the curiosity won't lead you anywhere new.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said, okay, you're leading perfectly into my next question, which is you said, not taking yourself too seriously is one of the markers of play. How do you define play, Meghan?
Gosh, when you asked me to do this, I was like, I'm the wrong person. I am the wrong person to answer this question.
Disagree.
Because like it is so hard for me to let go of control.
So there's no right answer here.
Right. I understand that.
So you don't take it too seriously.
It is. I mean, really, that has to be it. Like
Yeah.
when I find I am playing, and I probably will like define this for myself and not superimpose it on other people.
Yeah.
But it has to be, it's like just me like letting go of control and not being in my head.
I love that.
Yeah.
Play is letting go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
So if a member of your congregation or a member of your gym approached you and said, how can I be more playful in my life? Like what's one thing you would recommend they go try, a very tangible thing they could go do?
I think it would be like having a day where you don't have anything on your schedule and you just like let the day unfold. So you're really like paying attention to like, what is the thing that I want to do right now? What is going to like spark joy in my life? Not like to Marie Kondo it, but like that sort of thing of like, what's that instinct that you have? And if it's something for productivity's sake, don't do it. You don't get to do that. Because there are some days, this is so pedantic, but like I like to clean some days. Other days it feels like a chore, right? And so whatever you like wake up with in that day, like if it's something that feels like it's going to bring you life, like go do that thing. If it feels like a chore, don't do that thing. I don't know, like a yes day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so great. Thank you for talking to me about play, even though you think you're not the right person to talk about it. You're the right person to talk about it. So I really appreciate this. I really enjoyed chatting with you, as I always do.
Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
There are so many things I appreciate about my conversation with Meghan, and I heard a few themes come out in some of the things she was sharing. The first theme I heard was that play often happens in the context of relationships. You heard this in her family of upbringing and the way it connected her to Chicago and the Cubs, all the way to having a family of her own and her congregation, her gym, her teams, all of these communities in which she is experiencing play, and play becomes both the means to connection, working towards something together, and sometimes it can be challenging, or it can be fun, and it can be all of the above, but it happens in the context of community. Meghan said she was not interested in the solo sports, and I think that's a good metaphor for a lot of the ways she carries herself, is that she's interested in doing this with people and growing with others, and that comes through so clearly in the way she carries herself and her priorities. So love seeing that theme come out of play happening in the context of relationships as a connection agent. The next theme that I heard a lot of was play as a means of connecting to and through our bodies. That our bodies become vessels of play. Of course, when we're playing a sport or doing something with our hands, of course, our body is the thing that is enacting the play. And play, of course, can be intellectual in other ways. There's many ways. But specifically, Meghan talked about feeling more connected to her body because of what the play was asking of her. And therefore, she can give back to the play by using her body and being in tune with that and being in touch with what exactly is this sack of flesh that we walk around and doing when we play. And ideally, maybe we're not thinking about it too much, but sometimes we are. And when we tune into that, this awareness can lead to a richer immersion into the play, and a way of, on the other side, conversely, having the play speak to our bodies. And maybe there's something that we need to learn, or we need to know from because of the play. Maybe you get an injury and that's something that you needed to pay attention to, and it was the play that caused that. But that can also be a sign of something that is a growth area, something to work on, or it can be that play teaches us about the limits or lack of limits of what our body can do. That play can be the reason in which we can be amazed at just what these cool things that we get to walk around in can do, and what a gift they are to have bodies of all abilities able to engage in play, and whatever play makes sense for your body, for my body. And so I heard that in Meghan as well. And I love her definition. Play is letting go. And this could be so many things. I'm definitely going to need to ponder this one a lot longer. But maybe the letting go is letting go of a sense of time or inhibitions, letting go of wondering, do I look okay while I do this? Maybe it's letting go of perfection and performance and just being and entering into it, whatever that might be. Maybe the letting go is letting go in a way that requires some trust, and there's some fear to work through, or some courage to drum up in order to play in a certain way. And that may be another form of letting go, the releasing of control and trusting that there is an experience or a connection with others that could be meaningful and could be something that we can grow through. So love that definition of play is letting go. Thank you, Megan, for that. And thank you for coming through and passing through Chicago just briefly while you were traveling and before you headed back to Boston. So really grateful for that. And thanks to all of you for checking out this episode of Define Play. Whether you watch it on YouTube or listen on your podcast platform, we appreciate it very much. And if you enjoyed this, please send it to somebody who you think might enjoy it. And if you don't mind, give us a like, subscribe, or rating on whatever platform you're using. It means a lot to us and helps us grow this so that we can share these ideas and conversations with other people. So be sure to check out defineplay.com as well for a playlist that Megan put together of songs that inspire her to play. And yeah, Beyoncé is the first song on the playlist, spoiler alert, but it goes on a whole journey from there. So make sure to check out the songs she picked out because they are awesome. Thanks again, everybody. We will catch you next time. Bye-bye.